Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I'm your host, Nata, and I'm very excited for today's episode. This episode was inspired by a client of mine who was interviewed in a magazine. When they asked her about her success, she said, "It wasn't just about what I've learned, it was about what I had to unlearn." That stopped me in my tracks because she's right. At the CEO stage, growth doesn't come from adding more strategies or hustling harder. It comes from releasing the patterns, the beliefs, and the habits that are quietly holding you back. So today we're diving into the 10 things you must unlearn to take your business to the next level. And I will tell you right now, these are not surface level tips. Each one of these is rewiring what can save you years of spinning your wheels in your business. And I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to ask you to follow up with some action items. And I hope you really take the time to think about these shifts and apply them to take that turn in your business. I've also asked these questions to a panel in my friend Ellen Yang's event, Bloom Together, last week in Oregon. And so I mixed together here some of the answers that I got from the participants and some of the things that I've seen in my clients. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Hey there, I am Nata Salvatore, and you're listening to the Accidental CEO podcast. This is a space for high-performing entrepreneurs who have built real success but still find themselves tangled in the day-to-day. If you're done being the engine of your business and you're ready for scale with clarity, trust, and ease, you're in the right place. Each week, I'll bring you sharp strategies, identity-level mindset shifts, and leadership tools to help you rise above the business and lead from alignment, not exhaustion. Because scaling isn't about doing more, it's about becoming more of who you're meant to be. Subscribe now and let's build a version of your business that finally supports you. You're not just winging it, you are leading it. But let's be honest, being the CEO and the everything else can get lonely, messy, and exhausting. That's why I created the Accidental CEO Collective, a free Facebook community for creative entrepreneurs who never planned to be the boss, but damn it, here we are. Inside, I go live every week to share the real stuff. Strategies that don't require a business degree, behind the scenes struggles, because you're not the only one, and wins that we actually celebrate, even the tiny ones. If you're a scrappy, smart, sometimes slightly burnout founder who is ready to lead with more clarity and less chaos, this is your room. We're building a business that works for us, not one that runs us into the ground. Come join us. Let's grow, mess up, pivot, and succeed together. Just search the Accidental CEO Collective on Facebook and join our group today. All right, let's dive into number 1. You are not your ideal client. I see this all the time. Founders underpricing their offers because they personally wouldn't pay that much. But you are not your ideal client anymore. You've evolved, you're not buying your own services, and you are delivering it. That is probably true to a lot of us. And maybe some of us are our ideal client, but a lot of us are not, especially in the beginning of our business and in that growth phase, right? I remember thinking back to my wedding photography business and how I priced things in the beginning. It was really connected to what I was willing to pay as a client. And I very quickly realized that wasn't not going to make it. It was not going to cut it to help me grow as a business. So I had to do some mindset shifting and work and really dig deep into what were the upper limits that I was putting on myself in relationship to money, in relationship to the value that I was offering. It was actually keeping me from pricing things the right way. Your ideal client has a different perspective. They have a different urgency and very often a very different financial picture than you. They're paying for results, not your hours. So here's the exercise for you. I want you to write down 3 things your ideal client values most. Maybe it's speed, maybe it's relief, maybe it's simplicity, maybe it's expertise. And then compare that to what you value. and then pay attention to the difference. There might be some very visible differences in there that you should start considering when it comes to putting value and pricing around what you're offering. Here's a story for you. I once worked with a consultant who kept her pricing at, below $3,000, $2,500, because she thought that's what I would pay, right, for this kind of service. But her clients were CEOs of seven-figure companies. They were making money. And for them, $2,500 was less than their lunch budget. When she raised her fee to, $10,000, her close rates actually went up. Why? Because now it matched the level of transformation that they wanted and the level of value that they were looking for in relationship to what they are receiving as a CEO of a seven-figure company. So really, here's the pause for reflection and the prompt that I want you to use. Where in your business are you still making decisions as if you were the buyer? What shifts if you step fully into your CEO lens instead? So ask yourself that question this week. Write some things down. Do that comparison in perspective of what feels, valuable to you and your client, and see if you can find some disparities there that you can work on. Number 2, your self-worth is not connected to your offer. One of the most dangerous traps is tying your worth to your sales. If a lunch flopped, if you feel like a failure, a client says no, you take it personally. But your revenue is not a report card. It's just some data. A failed launch doesn't mean that you fail personally. It just means that maybe your offer, the timing, or the messaging missed the mark. There's something in there that needs to change. It doesn't mean the product is not good enough. I've been there. I once had an offer that completely bombed, 0 signups. And for weeks, I told myself the stories that maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe people don't want what I have. When I took the time to really look into things and stepped back, I realized it wasn't about me. It was about how I packaged everything. And it really changed how I see things. And a month later, when I relaunched that product, the outcome was completely different. I want to share a story here with you. It's a personal story that I've shared in different podcasts before as a guest that I think is very important at illustrating this idea of not connecting your self-worth to your product. I was a volleyball player in college, and I remember this moment very clearly in my mind. We were in a very important time of our preseason, kind of playing tournaments to place ourselves in a good spot when season started, getting some good practice. And we travel for this tournament. And on the very first game, we bombed. Not one or two of us, the entire team played terribly. And afterwards, it was just that feeling of failure. Everybody was quiet. There was like a heaviness in the air. We all felt terrible. So we all got into our van to go back to the hotel. Our coach was quiet. We were so sad because we disappointed each other. We disappointed him. The vibe was just dark. It was not a fun place to be. And I remember he drove the van to this shopping plaza instead of the hotel, and he just parked and got off the van. Didn't say a word to us. We were all just looking at each other, very confused. We didn't know what was going on, and we thought he was just very mad. He wasn't talking to us. And he came back with this box full of cupcakes, and he handed each one of us a cupcake. Now, mind you, our diet was very strict and controlled. As athletes, we were absolutely not allowed to be eating sweets, especially in the middle of a tournament. So we were, again, very confused. And he explained to us that even though as volleyball players that day, we sucked, we were still lovable and amazing as people. He still considered and loved each one of us, and that we should not be connecting our self-worth to our performance that day. And that was such an amazing lesson that I carry on to this day and that I teach my clients, because it is painful and unproductive when you are assigning such an important thing as self-worth into somebody else's power. that should be something that only you can determine and nobody else has a say on it. So disconnect that from your product, disconnect that from your service, and you'll be able to make better decisions to serve your clients because you're going to have a better, clearer picture of what really is not landing when you disconnect those two things. All right, let's jump into number 3. You don't have to do it all yourself. This one is tough. So many founders tell me it is faster if I just do it myself. And in the moment, sure, that might be true. That might feel true. But over time, this keeps your chain to every detail and it sucks the life out of you. If you have been listening to me for more than 5 minutes, you probably know that I talk about delegation a lot as a strategy to grow your business and how important it is to be focusing your time and energy where it needs to be. Delegation fails not because of the person that you hire, but because of how you delegate. When you don't have the structure around it, the outcome very likely is not going to be what you want. Most founders delegate tasks. CEOs delegate outcomes. There's a big difference there. So here's some framework. I'm going to give you some examples. Task level delegation sounds like this. Send this email. Responsibility level delegation sounds like this. Manage the newsletter process. And an outcome level delegation sounds a little bit more like this. I want you to make sure that our clients feel informed about the upcoming launches that we have. Do you feel the difference here? At the outcome level, you're no longer just micromanaging and delegating that task. You are leading. You're giving a little bit insight of what is the mission of that task, right? You're taking the time to explain what it means for that task to be completed at a higher level. And what does that mean to the mission and vision and value of your company? When the person you're delegating to has that clear picture of what I call the vision completion of the task, the positive outcome is a lot more likely than if you just delegate a task. So here's your action step. This week, I want you to pick one recurrent task and delegate it at the outcome level. Not what to do, but what the result is going to create. Take some time to do some thinking and make sure that you are going beyond just a surface level delegation. Let's be honest, you didn't build this business to work 80 hours a week, chasing invoices and solving problems at midnight. But now you're hit a wall. You've outgrown DIY and you're spinning your wheels trying to scale and stay sane. That's where one-on-one coaching with me comes in. This is not a cookie cutter program. It's tailored, strategic support designed specifically for founders like you, the ones who built something from nothing and are now carrying all the weight. We'll get clear on what's keeping you stuck, simplify your focus, and build a plan that gets results without burning you out. If you want a second brain and no BS sounding board, and someone who can help you make better, faster, smart decisions, this is for you. Head out to accidentalceo.co/coaching. That's accidentalceo.co/coaching. And let's work together to grow your business and take your life back. Number 4, business is not equal effectiveness. We've been taught to glorify busyness, long hours, full calendars. Business is not impact, it's noise. I had a client working 60 plus hours a week. She looked so productive, but her revenue was flat. And then I had another client cut her hours in half and doubled her income because she focused only on the activities that moved revenue forward. We have to learn that more hours not equal more revenue, especially when you're focused on your time the wrong way. Think about how we do small talk, right? We say, hey, how are you? Have you been busy? That question comes up so often when I'm talking to other business owners because we tend to equate business with success. And it's time to stop with the hustle thinking and understand that CEO level, you have to be efficient. Everything else is optional, right? Open your calendar, take a look right now. Your calendar shows you what is priority for you. If your calendar is full of tasks that are low level, that are not revenue generating, that's where you put in your effort and your energy in. And maybe you need to rethink that. So think of it like this: busyness is treading water, and effectiveness is actually swimming forward. Which one are you doing right now? Number 5, it doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. This is one of those that actually came out during that panel, and I thought it was a really great one to include here for you guys. Perfection is a business killer. I've seen founders delay launches for months because the sales page wasn't polished enough or the logo wasn't right. All kinds of excuses. I've heard it many, many times. I had a client that put something scrappy together, wasn't branded, wasn't polished, was a webinar, and it outperformed her fancy one because it was real and it was valuable. And that is more important than any visual aspect of that webinar, right? Excellence should be your standard. Perfection is a prison. Done is scalable and perfect is not. So my challenge here to you is send the email, post the video, launch the beta. Let the market give you some feedback instead of waiting for flawless. Once the ball is rolling, you're going to actually figure it out. What are the problems that you have to solve? And it's going to be a higher sense of urgency to get them solved than if you try to make sure everything is figured out and all the possible problems are addressed before you move forward. Don't keep yourself from growing because you want everything to look perfect. Number 6, you don't need the perfect decision to move forward. It kind of goes hand in hand with the perfectionism, right? Indecision is the most expensive habit in business. We don't have time for that. We wait, we overthink, we look for certainty that doesn't exist. We don't grow. But CEOs don't wait for perfect. They decide and they course correct. Course correcting is so important for business. Think of it like driving. You can steer a parked car. There will be no direction change. There will be no strapping on the brakes. There will be no stepping on the gas when you're not moving. I had 2 clients at the same time. One spent 6 months debating her niche and trying to figure out how to even start. And the other one just picked one and tested and adjusted and actually found out she was talking to the wrong people, but course corrected and grew 3 times faster just because she was already on the move. So I want you to think about what is maybe one decision that you've been stuck on. I want you to give yourself 24 hours and then make a decision. It's time to move. And then you can iterate later, make changes, adjust, and evolve. Nobody's expected to do it right from the get-go. It's the amount of times that you fail and move forward that are going to determine how well you do at the end of this road. Number 7, conflict doesn't mean failure. Too often, founders see conflict as proof that something is wrong. But conflict is just data. You have to learn to look at it as just one more point of information that you have to potentially make changes. If a team member is questioning a process, it might be because they are actually invested, right? If a client is pushing back, maybe they are showing you that there is some issue with the expectation. They weren't clear in the beginning. Conflict is a smoke alarm, it's not fire. It's the signal to actually ask you to reflect, right? What is it that's bringing that up to the surface? So I want you to think about your last conflict. What was it showing you about your system or your standards or your communication? What is the information that you can gather from that conflict that can actually help you change things and move forward? Number 8, leadership doesn't mean being liked. One of the biggest traps founders fall into is confusing leadership with likability. You want to be cool. You want to be the cool boss. You want your team to think you're generous and easy to work with. You want your clients to see you as accommodating and flexible. But here's the truth. Leadership isn't about being liked. It's about being clear. If you're always softening decisions to avoid friction, you're not leading. You are people pleasing. And people pleasing is expensive. It costs you time, money, energy, and authority. I work with founders who hate enforcing boundaries, and one of them let clients reschedule last minute. She would answer emails at midnight. She would avoid giving her team hard feedback because she didn't want to seem harsh. And what happened was her business was running her, not the other way around. And when they reframed that leadership from being liked to being clear, things started to change. She started enforcing the policies, setting some firm expectations, and giving more direct but kind feedback. And guess what? Her team actually respected her more, and her clients trusted her more, and she respected herself more. And that is very, very important. I'm not telling you here that you don't have to be liked or that you have to be mean. What I'm telling you is you got to make sure that you're still leading from a place of love, but that leading part is still there, right? So I want you to look at where you've been maybe softening things a little bit just to avoid being disliked. And, maybe it's with your clients, maybe it's with your team, and maybe it's even with yourself. And then ask this question: what would change if I chose clarity over likability? Because at the end of the day, your job isn't to be liked. Your job is to lead. And clarity is what builds trust far more than trying to please everybody else will. All right, number 9, growth doesn't have to feel chaotic. We've normalized chaos way too often, especially in entrepreneurship. And we say, well, growth is supposed to feel messy. But the truth is, chaos isn't proof of growth. It's proof of missing systems and organization and the lack of structure. When you have systems in place, that onboarding, the delivery, the money flow, growth actually feels calm and it feels spacious, that you have space to breathe. So think about where maybe there's some chaos in your business and understand that that doesn't mean things are growing. Maybe you just need to take your time to put some structure around it, to give you some support, and maybe identify a place in your business that feels chaotic right now. And, ask yourself if this chaos or is just missing, some systems. Then build one layer of support there and follow through to make sure that things continue to evolve and you step from that chaos like feel to the calmness and sustainability of growth. All right, let's hit number 10. You don't need to sacrifice your life for your legacy. There's this old story that success requires sacrifice and that you have to trade your health and your relationships and your freedom. But here's the thing, that story is outdated. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for hustling in the beginning of growing your business. I've done it. All the successful people out there have done it. That is completely a time for that. But then there's also a time where you have to step away from that and start being smart about the decisions of how you're going to continue to grow and scale your business. I've had clients that scale a lot faster when they worked less. And the reason is because they had time to think, rest, and lead. When your business should support life and not consume it. I really want you to take your time to do an honest assessment. And again, how you're spending your time and your energy in your business. What boundaries, if honored, would protect both your life and your business? Is there a no laptop after 6? Is it a Friday off? Is it vacations without guilt? That's the kind of boundary that builds both freedom and legacy. You don't have to be draining, exhausted, overworked, burnout for your business to be successful. Start applying all those things that we talked about. I gave you 10 things to unlearn if you want to scale your business without burnout. Notice that none of these were about doing more. They were about releasing the things that no longer fit the leader that you're becoming. And if a few of these really hit home, I would love to support you more deeply inside of my coaching programs. This is exactly what I do. I help you unlock and unhook from over responsibilities and build systems, clarity, and capacity so your business supports you instead of consuming you. Your next level isn't about learning more, it's about unlearning what no longer serves you and stepping into leadership with clarity, confidence, and freedom. I hope you really take the time to go through this list, apply some of these things. Send me a message on Instagram, send me a DM at accidentalceo.co. I would love to hear from you and see which one of these you're planning on implementing. We'll see you next week at the next episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nata Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.